Welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country. Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Joining me today is Robert Da Procida in Calgary, who is a owner of Ancora Homes, a home building company, and also an actor, singer, pianist. And we'll get into all that. And just prefacing this, I was at morning mass for Ash Wednesday. That's why you see the the ashes on my forehead, and I know that this episode won't be running until a little while, but today is Ash Wednesday while we're doing the taping. Thanks for joining us today, Robert.
Absolutely, Mario. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. So tell me, just first of all, let's talk about there's too many aspects of you here, right? So many careers. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Ancora Homes. Tell me what you guys do there.
Ancora Homes is one of my building companies. I actually have two. Had one in Fort McMurray up north called Birchwood Homes. We started back in 2000 and we built many, many homes out there, probably close to 400. We did just regular home building out there. We were also involved in the fire rebuilds and after when the floods happened. So did a lot of work up there for quite a while. Ancora Homes, I started back in 2015. That was so I could start building here locally because we actually moved from Fort McMurray back down to Calgary in 2011. And I did a few years back and forth and wanted to kind of start up down here. And shortly after starting here, the fires happened. So I did a lot of back and forth, running my company here, running the one up there. And now we've pretty much wound down in Fort McMurray and concentrating more here.
Okay, interesting, interesting. What's really interesting is the other side, the what is it, the left side and the right side of the brains that people talk about. So one side, and I don't know what side that is, that's the business side, right? Then the
Yeah.
right side or the other side is the creative side. So I'm looking at your bio and you were playing or training as in classical piano at the age of 4?
That's right. That's I actually started piano just before I started school. So was in piano for like I said, right from 4 years old. I completed my Royal Conservatory at a very young age at 13. And then during that time, I also started doing singing as well. And then after 13, I started teaching for quite a while. So that was my part-time job while I was at school.
So let's talk about the piano stuff first of all. How did you get into piano? Was there family members that played the piano or?
No, my dad's side is kind of musical, but none of them really took music or took music lessons. Like his brothers and stuff just picked up instruments and just learned them, and they're just quite naturally musical. But with me, it was my mom just kind of discovered me playing on a little toy piano downstairs that I had, and she was recognized that I was actually playing some tunes. I was playing some songs, just learning them by ear on the piano, and I guess right away, ding, ding, ding. She said, "Okay, let's go to piano lessons." So that September, she sent me off the piano, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you still play?
Oh yeah, still play all the time. Play, sing. And now I have my daughters. They sing, and so sometimes we'll do a little thing here together. We'll sing at a wedding or a funeral or something like that.
Uh,
My wife sings as well. She's a fantastic singer, and so we're always doing something.
okay. Now tell me about the singing part. What kind of things were you involved in with singing over the years?
Well, singing is what kind of brought me into I did the music and then I was still singing and then I started doing a little bit of theater at school, so that kind of led into some musical theater. And I once I kind of started doing that, I really loved that, the acting part of it as well. So that kind of led from musical theater into theater. And then by the time I graduated high school, I made the decision I wanted to get into film.
Wow.
So what ended up happening is I graduated because I grew up in a small town called Cranbrook, British Columbia.
Ah,
Yeah, so after graduation, I headed down to the coast of Vancouver, and the next probably 7, 8 years, just acting full time out there. And I was doing film stuff out there and building my career. And we had a big strike in 1998. It was similar to what SAG had a few years back. we had a big actor strike out there, so kind of productions kind of stopped in 1998. So there wasn't much going on. So I kind of came to Calgary to visit some family, hang out, started doing a show while I was here, and that's where I met my wife, and I never left.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your acting career. Tell some of the shows or films that you've been involved in, and that some people would recognize.
So back, yeah, I was back in the 90s. I was in Vancouver, and I was in shows such as like The X Files, The Outer Limits. I did an episode of Poltergeist. I did a few films out there. One with Craig T. Nelson, Giancarlo Esposito was in that film. Um, I did one with Rob Lowe, one with Eric McCormick, Sean Young. So we did quite a bit of film and TV out there. And then when I came here after what happened with the acting stuff, once I moved to Calgary, there wasn't really a film industry here, not enough to make a living out of, and made the decision I was going to be with my wife, get married. So I actually kind of put everything on hold. I said, okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
going to change gears here. And that's what kind of led into, I went to SAIT first. I got a computer diploma in computer technology. So I did that first, computer programming, and that kind of landed me a job up north in Fort McMurray, literally right after we got married. So I went up there for a while and brought my wife up, of course, and did that for about a year and a half working at Syncrude. And then I just had an opportunity to do the building company there. So I decided, hey, office work really wasn't for me. So I kind of got out of that and started the building company with my dad. And we did that for quite a few years. And acting just went completely on hold. And then once we came back here after 2011, it was probably about the mid 2010s. I kind of thought, okay, well, wouldn't mind doing a few things, right? So I kind of rekindled with my agent that was here, and did a couple little things in the mid 2010s. But then the fire happened in Fort McMurray, so I started going back up there, and so I put it on hold again. And so good 4 or 5 years passed, and I think it was about 2022, 2021, 22. I was pretty much done up there. I was here. Just kind of finished happening. The whole industry kind of had a shift, a change, which was kind of basically everything was online now,
Yeah.
auditions, everything. So I was kind of like, well, that got me thinking, because it's like, well, this opens up a whole bunch of opportunity now, which wasn't there prior, right? So started looking back into things again, and rekindled my agents again, and decided, okay, I'm gonna see how this works out. And it actually worked out for me pretty great, because now I can access all these markets which I couldn't access before. So I
Okay.
started working on that little by little, rekindle my agent here, rekindle my agents on the coast. And the other big goal for mine was to be able to work in the US. Now, I didn't have a visa. I'm not a US citizen, so it was a challenge. I started that challenge 2 years ago.
Oh, cool.
Working everything, kind of figuring out what I needed, trying to get the right experience, the right backing, the right support letters. And finally, this past June, I was able to finally acquire a visa for.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that was a big step for me.
So, in terms of acting, are you in any particular type of character that you tend to be brought into films for?
Yeah, I get called in lots for the authority kind of guys, either the
Yeah.
bad guys or, like, the intense business owner. A lot of power kind of characters, right? Is usually what I do mostly, right? I did do a role where I was a little more of a sappy dad out in Toronto, but most of them tend to be that heavy authority kind of guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
just seemed to be
kind
my
of
personality.
you kind of look like you could play a role in a Godfather movie, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've done a few of those. Yeah, I do the mob boss for sure. I did a biker. Was down doing a film this past summer where I played a biker. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
How
I'm not always the nice guy.
So I'm curious, how do you manage yeah, to run a business still and do the acting? How do you juggle that?
just kind of fit everything in. I don't know. It's kind of, I'm not one to think about how I'm going to do it. I just kind of, they have all these things to do. So just get to them and do it. Right. When it comes to the home building, I mean, for me, most of the stuff, because I also do all my own CAD drawings and stuff. So
Well,
when I'm building a home, like I know every inch of that house from top to bottom because I designed the whole thing. Right. So most of the stuff, like I still go on site whenever I'm here. I'm on site like pretty much all the time through the construction. And if I ever am away out of town or something like that, I know them well, right? So I can pretty much somebody explain to me what they're looking at, and I know what they're talking about. Work through our solutions and our issues, and get things done. But so far, I've been able to make it work. I did the same when we were doing the Fort McMurray fires. I was going out there a week, coming home a week, and then I was still, I still managed my sites. It's
cool.
everything okay. So yeah, it's mostly just about having a good grasp of what you're doing. So when your people are there working, they have, clear communication of what's going on, and you don't have any issues.
Yeah. Now I'm curious, with your creative background, especially in the acting part of it, has that helped you in any way, like for being a businessman?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, one, y- it definitely taught me how to be like a self-motivated person, first of all. So like I've just been doing this kind of stuff my entire life where you have to kind of train yourself to get out and get things done because there's all that stuff you do that doesn't make you money, but is still a requirement to do it, right? It's like, you got to spend the time with your planning, spend the time doing your estimates, and spend the time doing all that. So that requires quite a bit of motivation to want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And because I do a good portion of it myself, like I don't hire people for all that kind of stuff. I do all that. It just, there's nobody there to kick you out of bed. So you just got to get up and do your thing, right? Every single day. And I'm kind of just always kind of been that way. I always think of my long-term goal. And then it's like, okay, so I want to be there. So I got, all
Yeah.
these steps to get to from here to there. And I start, just road mapping and one thing at a time, a little bit here, a little bit there, and eventually get to where you're trying to get.
In the acting side of things, there's something that you want to do that you haven't done?
I'd like to start getting into some producing. I'd like to start maybe bringing some more projects here to Alberta because we're still in the scheme of it. Like it's improving all the time, but we don't do a lot of stuff here. And the stuff that's usually done here, a lot of it's brought in from other places. So they kind of come in, they do the thing and leave, right?
Yeah.
So I'd really like to at some point, and I'm starting to look at a little bit of that. I've made some great connections with writers, directors, and that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of finding the right project here. And of course, you need, funding and investing for that kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Get involved. But I'd like to start doing some more projects here, start getting Calgary building up and making its kind of, its place in the world of film, right?
Yeah.
Because Vancouver and, on Toronto now, they're quite established now. Like when I first moved out to Vancouver, it was still a younger industry, right? A little further in ahead than where we are now, but it was at that time it was still fairly young, and it was kind of going through the same thing where all the out of towners were coming in, but then it started to establish itself, and it put out some great productions and that kind of thing. So Toronto, and Vancouver now are well recognized in the film industry in
Mm.
general.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I'd like to see the same kind of happen in Calgary. Lots of talented people and crews, good tax incentives here for that kind of thing. So it'd be great to see it take off.
But the film industry here in Calgary is much bigger than it used to be, right?
Oh yes, it is growing. Every year it grows a little bit more, which is nice to see and stuff. It just, I just think we have a lot more to offer and we could take on a whole lot more and just really, really grow that industry.
Yeah. Okay then. Tell me just a little bit about your Italian background. Where's your family from in
They're
Italy?
all from Calabria. My mom was born in a little town called Palizzi in Reggio Calabria, and my dad's town was kind of a stone throw away, right just close by, called Pietrapenata. Yeah,
Okay.
so a
Yeah.
little mountain town, Pietrapenata. It's really small.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned growing up from your parents that stick with you today?
Well, definitely the work ethic you learn, right? I mean, and I think most Italian kids do go through that, right? We had lots of chores growing up. You had things you were supposed to get done, and
Yeah.
you learn how to be very self-sufficient too. Like my case, you just kind of, I don't know, I feel like just knowing from like my other friends, you kind of grow up a little quicker, right? And you don't have the expectations maybe that kids have now. Um, our parents were just, it wasn't even a thought, right? Like when you were young, I wanted something. It's like 12 years old, I went and got my first job. I was making money when I was younger just through like, festivals, playing piano and stuff. So I always had a little bit of savings and stuff that I
Yeah.
could go,
Yeah.
if I want something, I go get it, right? But then, 12 years old, I was like, well, I think I'm gonna, go get a job. So I never thought at that age, you think at 12 years old, you need to go ask your parents. I just went and found a job, didn't even ask. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, I want to get stuff. I'm gonna go get a job. And so you just start doing stuff, right? And my parents, we grew up in a smaller town, lots of Italians there still, and everybody knew each other. I lived literally right next to my uncle, and it was just kind of got up every day. You went outside, you left, as long as you made it home by dinner, nobody worried
Yeah.
about you. Came home for supper, and that was it. But we were, pretty traditional, involved in the Italian center that was in Cranbrook, and
Oh,
knew
yeah.
the community and grew up the old way, right? Like everybody else, making sausage, making wine, doing our stuff all the time,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at the whole growing up as an Italian, what was your favorite thing about growing up as an Italian?
I just like the aura of everybody. I don't know, just the way when Italians get together, there's just so much about just people. Just it's
Yeah.
it's almost a difficult thing to put into words unless you experience it. And I mean, you've obviously experienced it, and I'm sure other big families experience it as well. But it's just such a part of life. And when I moved like away to Vancouver, like I moved there by myself, I didn't know a soul out there. You start to meet people after a while, but you notice that void gone, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't have somewhere to go the weekends. We're not together with aunts and uncles, and cousins, and all that kind of stuff. So it really becomes more apparent when you kind of leave it. So I know a lot of people, like friends of mine, even cousins and stuff, they never really left, the nest egg really, right? They were still there where they live in the same city as their parents and that kind of stuff. So they haven't experienced what it's like to not have it. So sometimes maybe it gets taken for granted and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
for people. But when you move away, you feel it. So when I came back here, when I met my wife's also Italian, Calabrese like me, mom and dad's side, both sides. It was just the mesh was just there, right? So we're very involved. Like we have our kids involved in, the Italian Cultural Center here in Calgary. Our girls dance with the dancers. My wife's the president of the dancers. We're down there all the time for the different events, and we're very involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as an entrepreneur, Robert, if a young person came to you, or your children came to you and said, "Dad, I want to be an entrepreneur," what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
Well, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it really boils down to your personality, okay? Because it's not everybody can get out there and deal with the days in the days out because it's you're basically on call all the time.
Yeah.
Really, when it comes to your business is like another child of yours. You have to be on it all the time. It has to be almost number one. So a lot of times you have to sacrifice many things in your life just to make for the well-being of the business. And it's not because work is everything, it's because the business is what's taking care of you, family, right? So you
Yeah.
can't let that just can't just go let it slide today and let it slide tomorrow, right? You know, because it catches up to you. So you have to be a real hungry kind of person. You have to really be willing to say, I am going to just, give it my all. And you got to be willing to do whatever because there is a lot of those days where, you're out and you could work for 2, 3 weeks straight and not make a dime because, you're out, you still have to make your payments to your people. You have to pay them, you have to pay your suppliers, pay your employees. So everybody kind of gets paid first, and you're hoping there's something there at the end for you. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So you have to be prepared for that kind of life, right? And then there's no, if you want benefits and stuff, well, either you have to go and pay an arm and a leg for them, or you just don't get them, right? So you don't have all the comforts and security of working for somebody else, but you do have unlimited potential. Unlimited potential is what you're willing to put in.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much, Robert, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Mario.
All right. Well, it's wonderful. That was Robert Procida, who is owner of Ancora Homes in Calgary, is also an actor. And I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today.